Hello students, welcome to StudyIQ. In this session, we will discuss the period between 1805 to 1823. Okay, so I'll try to cover the important events during this time. Not much important is there during this period, apart from Charter Act and something in Third Anglo-Maratha War during Hastings time. So if you see in the previous session, we have covered from 1793 to 1805, right? So we have discussed about the period of Lord Wellesley here, and we have discussed about subsidiary alliance. So if you go for a quick recap, what I've told you, subsidiary alliance is basically a military help which is offered, right? And if the question is about who is the pioneer of that policy or whose brainchild is subsidiary alliance, it is not Wellesley. Wellesley have made some modifications. So whose brainchild it is? It is a French governor Dupleix when he rendered his army for the first time way back in 1740s. Okay, he rendered his army to Hyderabad. So that's where this concept of subsidiary alliance is actually starting. So subsidiary alliance is basically a military help, but Wellesley have made some modifications. We have also seen what are the modifications made by Wellesley and how he beautifully used this policy to expand his army across India. So he was able to make sure that the British army was present across India without spending anything from their exchequer. The entire expenditure of this army will be taken care by the local king. So he either signed this treaty, some local kings either voluntarily sign this treaty or he will force the local king to sign this treaty, and you can keep the army across different states and across India. So you can mobilize your army across India, and this very same army could be used any part of India whenever there is a problem. And we have discussed about various provisions or the changes that he introduced in this policy. The first condition is, if you are signing this treaty, you are not allowed to employ any foreigner other than English. Second one was, if you're signing this treaty, in case of any war policy or any war treaty or peace treaty, you have to inform it firstly to the British. So this word inform is actually diplomatically used. Basically, you need to get the permission from British. And I've told you, you need to get the permission for these kinds of treaty means you are surrendering your sovereignty. And when Tipu was forced to sign this treaty, that was in 1799, he, instead of signing this treaty, he went for a battle. He fought against English, and he was not ready to sign the treaty. The reason is, you are surrendering the sovereignty. So Tipu, instead of signing this treaty or surrendering the sovereignty, he went for a battle and he died in that battle. So that's what we have discussed under 4th Anglo-Mysore War. So Mysore actually signed the treaty after the death of Tipu. So I've told you this particular question also. Tipu's death in history is understood as an honorable death than a dishonorable pact. So what is that dishonorable pact that we are talking about? It is nothing but subsidiary alliance only. Okay, so you need to write that answer in the context of subsidiary alliance. And then we have discussed about other condition, that an English resident had to be stationed in the capital of that local state who is signing the treaty, and the entire expenditure, including the soldiers, guards, the food, the clothes, and everything has to be taken care by the local king. Apart from that, the Britishers promised in return that they will not interfere in the internal matters of the state, which they have never done or hardly done, and they always interfere. Secondly, they promise that they will protect the state which is signing the treaty from any external threat. In fact, the British became the threat for them later. Okay, the very fence started eating the crop. And you can see Sindh is a state which signed the treaty. I have also told you which state signed the treaty. So 1803, Sindh signed this treaty. Exactly after 40 years, Sindh was annexed under British. Okay, and the person responsible for the annexation of Sindh was Charles Napier. He in fact wrote a letter to the Governor General Ellenborough during that time that we don't have any right to annex Sindh, and still we do that, and what a piece of rascality it is. Okay, it's exactly a kind of rascality, because Sindh is a state which signed subsidiary alliance and you have to protect Sindh as per the agreement, but you're annexing the state. Okay, and later you can see Awadh was also annexed in 1856. Awadh was also a state which signed the subsidiary alliance, and the lame excuse which was given by the British in annexing Awadh was misgovernance. So the British actually accused the Wajid Ali Shah, who was the then Nawab of Awadh, with misgovernance. And in fact, it was very controversial because Awadh was one of the prosperous state. The Nawab used to take care of the public, okay, and the Lucknowi culture is very famous, so it was not actually digested to the people also. And in fact, if you see 1857 revolt, one of the most important reason for 1857 revolt is actually annexation of Awadh. And if you see the military reason, in that we have talked about, see, most of the people in Bengal army actually from Awadh. So they had the strong attachment with their ruler, and this was also one of the reason for 1857 revolt. Apart from that, there are many other reasons also. The moment Awadh was annexed, Awadh come under permanent settlement, and you know what is permanent settlement. We have already discussed that under Lord Cornwallis. So you need to pay more tax, and most of the army members are the sons of the farmers or the peasants. So now you need to pay more tax. So there is an economic interest also. We will discuss about all those things, but here we are only talking about subsidiary alliance. So I hope this is clear. And in 1800, Fort William College was established basically to train the newly appointed civil servants in the local languages like Hindi and Urdu. And the college was shut down in 1802. I've told you this point. The first and the only principal of this college was John Gilchrist. Okay, so 1793 to 1805 we have done in the previous session. Before that, we have talked about this period, 1785 to 93, and we have discussed Lord Cornwallis in detail. We talked about police reform, we talked about civil service reform, judicial reform, that is Cornwallis Code, and we talked about the concepts that he introduced: equality before law, rule of law, etc. And then we have also talked about, permanent settlement, and along with that we have also covered the other two revenue settlements, that is Mahalwari settlement and Rotwari settlement. We have seen the consequences from prelims as well as mains point of view. We have completed the discussion. And before that, we talked about Lord Warren Hastings. So if you see 1773 to 85, we talked about Warren Hastings, and I've told you we have discussed about Regulating Act of 73, Pitt's India Act of 1784, and what are the problems faced by Lord Warren Hastings. Okay, so why his period in history is known as trial and error period, and I've told you how to support Warren Hastings and how to criticize Warren Hastings. So if it is a critically analyzed question, how to write, and if it is just a discuss or analyze question, how to write, all those things I've made clear, and I've given you enough content for writing your answer. So in this session we are going to talk about this period, 1805 to 1823. So when we discussed about Lord Cornwallis, I have told you his time was from 1786 to 1793, and I have told you he will come back to India again, and that was for few months, but nothing significant has actually happened during that time. So in 1805, for few months, actually Lord Cornwallis was coming back, and it is not for not significant from exam point of view, so we don't want to discuss this period. Okay, again the next Governor General also is not that significant. 1805 to 1807, there was a white mutiny. Apart from that, there is nothing much to discuss during his period also, so I am skipping this person because our focus is on exam point of view, and whatever is important from exam we will discuss. Okay, so next Governor General, Lord Minto I, is very important. So 1805 to 1807, George Barlow. Okay, so Lord George Barlow. So I'm skipping this person also. Now next is 1807 to 1813, very important person, that is Lord Minto. Okay, so Lord Minto I. 2 points is what I need to discuss here basically. So first one, the Treaty of Amritsar. Treaty of Amritsar with Maharaja Ranjit Singh of Punjab. See, this I will discuss separately later when we discuss about the wars. Okay, wars I will cover separately, so this in detail I will discuss later. The next point, last year also that was actually asked as a question, that is related to the Charter Act of 1813. So we will focus on that. So Charter Act of 1813. So there will be another Charter Act in 1833. So we will be discussing all those things in detail. So Charter Act of 1813, two important provisions we need to know. The first one, it ended the monopoly of East India Company. So it ended monopoly of East India Company except in two items. What are they? It is trade in tea products and trade with China. Okay, so see, during this time, if you see, industrialization is almost established. A lot of new industrialists and capitalists are emerging. Okay, so these new industrialists and capitalists, they are looking for the markets. Okay, and they are also looking for the raw materials. So they started bribing the parliamentarians. So till now, East India Company was giving the share. Okay, but now they started, these new capitalists also started bribing the parliamentarians, and they passed this act in their favor. With that, the monopoly of East India Company in India is ending. Okay, it is no more. Anybody can come and anybody can establish trade with India, except in two cases, that is trade with China and trade in tea products. So apart from these two, any company can come to India, they can establish trade with India. Okay, so that's about the first provision of this particular act. Now, more than this particular provision, this was actually asked as a prelims question. Apart from that, what is more important is actually the impact or the consequence of this particular provision, 1813 Charter Act. So what do you think will be the consequence of this particular provision? The new companies are coming, is it going to be good or bad? See, if you look into the present scenario, we are inviting foreign direct investment. Okay, so we are inviting the companies to come to India, invest in India, produce in India, so that the GDP will grow and employment will be created. So all these are there. So we are actually inviting the foreign firms to come to India. Make in India campaign is there, and we are providing all the opportunities and facilities for the foreign companies, for the foreign firms, multinational companies, etc. Okay, so here it is also the same thing, right? More and more companies are going to come to India. But is this good? Is that desirable at this point of time? No, it is a big no, because at this point of time, if you see, now we have a democratically elected government. Okay, and we have our own government. But at this point of time, here if you see, it's not democratically elected government, not our government. Okay, it is a different government, and they are taking care of our affairs. So if something go bad, we don't have any control over that. At this point of time, now if you see, it is our government and we have control over everything. So we don't have any such problem. In case if there is any problem, we can regulate it properly now. So you cannot actually make a comparison between the present situation and that situation, 1813 and 2020. Now when we are inviting people or the companies or the MNCs, multinational corporation, this situation and that situation is entirely different. Now we have a democratically elected our government. We can make our own rules and regulations, but that time it was not possible. And also, if you see, when we discuss about the impact of 1813 Charter Act, what actually happened? A lot of foreign companies are coming. Now they started dumping a lot of products in India across each and every corner, and that was actually increased when railway was also came in 1853. After railway, these products started going to each and every corner of India. These all are finished products. These all are made by using the machines. So these all are not much labor intensive. So these are cheap products and finished products. And when you compare these products with the Indian products, which is made by the artisans, human labor, so it's not that finished. At the same time, it is slightly costly, and it will not be competitive with the coming products, the imported products, right? The foreign products. So what will happen? The life of artisans is completely ruined. So till then, if you see, till 1813 in India, there was a balance between agriculture and industry. So during Mughal period and all these times, there was a clear-cut better balance between agriculture and industry. But from 1813 onwards, there is a new trend visible that the contribution of industry is actually coming down. All these artisans, they started losing their job. There is no further scope of development of industries in India, because all these finished products like the Manchester clothes, Liverpool clothes, all these things are directly coming and they're dumping all these products. So there is no further scope of development of Indian industries seen after 1813. So whatever you do, it will not be competitive in the market. Okay, so that prevented the industrialization in India, and this is actually the root cause why the agriculture, despite the fact that the employment contribution is so high, the problem is with agriculture, right? Because this disguised unemployment, what is this reason? All these people who lost the job, all these artisans now started moving towards agriculture. And what is the speciality of agriculture? Agriculture can accommodate any number of labor. For example, this much amount of land, let's say 3 people can work in this land, and actually 3 people is required to produce, let's say, 1 quintal. But those artisans who lost the job, let's say 5 more artisans are coming here. The speciality of agriculture is these 5 member can also be accommodated in the existing setup. But do you think more than 1 quintal can be produced? No. That means these 5 people's marginal product is 0. The marginal productivity or product is actually 0. So these 5 people are effectively unemployed. This situation is what we call as disguised unemployment. And the current problem, and the problem that actually India is facing right from 1813 is actually disguised unemployment. Okay, people all shifted to agriculture and the marginal product is actually 0. This also prevented the industrialization in India. So I would say this 1813 Charter Act, the main impact is it led to deindustrialization in India. Okay, so that's what exactly you need to write if you get this question in mains. It led to deindustrialization in India. So I am taking this from Mahatma Gandhi only. So it led to deindustrialization in India. I hope you understood. And it also increased the dependence on agriculture. So when industry is not going, if industry is not working well, people all shifted to agriculture. So even though the contribution of agriculture in terms of GDP is so less, but all the people are accommodated in the agriculture. And I've told you the marginal product of these new extra people is actually 0. That's the situation of disguised unemployment. And this problem is not only now, it was coming from 1813. It was there from 1813, and 1813 Charter Act is actually the reason why in India disguised unemployment is there, or why more people are depending on agriculture. Despite the fact that 15% is the contribution in GDP, 50% or more are depending on agriculture, because there was no scope of development of industries after 1813 Charter Act. You imagine that situation, everything, all the very good products are coming, the industrialization is there in a smooth way which is going on, they are producing a lot of products and they have to dump it in different markets. So in India, we are not that developed, so there was no further scope of development of industry. So that led to deindustrialization. So this is what you need to highlight in your answer. If the question is about 1813 Charter Act, it is not about these 2 points, trade in tea products and end of monopoly. End of monopoly means what actually going to happen? Different companies are going to come, and this is what actually happened. It led to deindustrialization. It led to a situation of disguised unemployment. It led to poverty. The life of artisans ruined. The balance between agriculture and industry broken. Till then we had a balance, the artisans on one section, the agriculturalist on the other section. So there was a balance between these two. Okay, based on their contribution in the GDP, there was a equal contribution, at least more or less in the employment also. But now there is a drastic shift you can see in terms of contribution in GDP of agriculture and the employment it has created. For example, if you talk about agriculture, let's say in a family, 3 members there, entire 3 members may work in the same piece of land. If 10 members there, they can also be accommodated in the same piece of land. Okay, but what I'm saying is the marginal product. This word is actually was asked in the last prelims. What do you mean by disguised unemployment? Marginal product is actually 0. Okay, so I hope you understood this. Second provision of 1813 Charter Act, which is again important, that is related to education. So what I want to tell you here is the second provision was the company was directed to spend rupees 1 lakh for the purpose of betterment of education in those areas where they have control. So this is actually the first step towards education. Okay, so the company was asked to spend rupees 1 lakh for the purpose of betterment of education in those areas where they are having control, like in Bengal, Bombay, Madras. Now the company was directed to spend rupees 1 lakh for the purpose of improvement in education, and it went for some more time and some more committee will be appointed, and in 1835 something is happening. Okay, so these are actually the milestones in education. Whenever you get a question on education, whether it is in history, it can be a specific question, it can be Maculay Minute, it can be Wood's Dispatch, it can be Hunder Commission, it can be Sadler Committee, whatever it is. Or if you get a general question, all these points has to be incorporated. There are certain milestones when it comes to education. So if you get a general essay, you should be starting from that. So okay, so 1813, the first step is actually happening for the purpose of betterment or improvement in education, and in 1835 something significant is happening. That is what we know, that is known as Maculay Minute. I'll explain in detail when it comes to that time. Maculay Minute is actually based on trickle down concept or downward filtration concept. You throw something to top, it will come down. So you educate few, and those few who's getting education in English model and in English medium will teach the rest of the others in vernacular language. That was the assumption in Macula Minute. That was again the significant contribution in education, that is in 1835. Then something happened in 1837 that Persian was replaced with English as the official language. Then something much more significant happened in 1854 in terms of Wood's Dispatch, which is known as Magna Carta of modern Indian education, which made the education, the primary education as the responsibility of the state, or education for all concept, or education for masses, was actually now introduced. So in that context, it is considered very important. It is known as Magna Carta of modern Indian education. Okay, Magna Carta is actually an order which was passed by English king way back in 1215, which granted certain rights. And historians compared this Wood's Dispatch with that. Okay, apart from 1854, then 1882 Hundar Commission, which gave importance to the primary education. So for example, if you see, 1835 gave importance to higher education, 1854 secondary education, now 1882 primary education. So they are coming from top to bottom instead of going from bottom to top. And from 1882 our education system is almost stabilized, and then we are going in this order. Okay, so all these will be discussed, but what I've told you here is 1813 Charter Act. In that there was a provision. The provision was this: the company was asked or directed to spend ₹1 lakh for the purpose of betterment of education. So this was the first step towards improvement in education. So whenever you get a question on education, you have to write all these milestones. These should be your first 2-3 introductory paragraphs. Okay, first you talk about this 1813 Charter Act, then you talk about 1835 Macula Minute, then you talk about Wood's Dispatch of 1854, then you talk about Hundar Commission, then you can talk about other reforms also. Okay, we will discuss everything in detail. You don't want to worry about that. I'll complete the entire series till 1947, and the post-independence also we will complete. We have already done with history, but still since the prelims is extended, we are just starting the series again. So I'm expecting it will be beneficial for you for your revision also. So what we have done, we have basically talked about Lord Minto here, 1807 to 1813. So I've talked about this Treaty of Amritsar. We will discuss this when we discuss about the Anglo-Punjab wars. All these wars, Anglo-Mysore War, okay, Anglo-Maratha War, Anglo-Punjab War, Anglo-Afghan War, all these Anglo-Bhutanese War, all these we will discuss separately. Okay, so Anglo-Burmese War, all these we'll discuss separately. Okay, the wars I'll discuss under a separate heading, like what I have done in case of socio-religious reform movement. We have discussed under a separate banner. So exactly in the same way the wars we will do. So here I hope this discussion is clear. We have only talked about Lord Minto today. So if you have any doubt, you can get in touch with me here. That's my Instagram ID, Zia Safir. You can join my Telegram channel. So this is the Instagram ID, this is my Telegram channel also, and this is my Facebook ID also. So all my videos are available over there. The ethics videos are there, quantitative aptitude is there, economy I've done complete, okay, history I've almost done complete, and then sociology optional if you have. That video is also available. In fact, the regular classes videos are posted over there. Okay, so if you need any help related to civil service, if you need to write a test series, or if you are interested in the answer writing programs or mentorship programs, you can call me. I'll give you my number also. This is my number, 98955 77755 or 9790 892 697. So you can get in touch with me in any of this number for any help related to civil services. So I hope you understood the session. See you guys. Thank you. Next session we will talk about Lord Hastings, and then we'll proceed with Bentinck and so on. Okay.